Hello gamers, and welcome to episode 5 of History of Gaming. In this episode, I'm going to cover one of the greatest gaming franchises of all time, The Legend of Zelda. This is my second time doing my Evolution series. These episodes are longer than normal, as I will be diving into all 21 Legend of Zelda games that have been released on console or handheld. For each game, I'll look at how the series evolved over time, while also reviewing the plot and going over many other details. So grab a snack and a drink, settle in, hit those like and subscribe buttons, and let's talk all about The Legend of Zelda. But first, since I'm looking at the evolution of The Legend of Zelda, I will be going through each game by its release date. But it's important we also pay attention to the chronological order of these games. Believe it or not, the origin story of The Legend of Zelda wasn't played until the 16th game of the series. The chronological order begins with 4 games in the origin timeline. The origin timeline ends with arguably the most important game of the franchise, Ocarina of Time. The ending of Ocarina of Time has 3 possible endings that have spawned 3 separate timelines. The first timeline, the child timeline, Link has defeated Ganon, and he's sent back in time by 7 years to stop Ganondorf before it continues. This timeline follows a younger Link and contains 3 games. In the adult timeline, Link has defeated Ganon, and the story continues from this point. This timeline has 3 games as well. In the Fallen Hero timeline, Link loses against Ganon, and the story continues following this devastating loss. This timeline has 9 games. Then there's the finale timeline. That seems to continue on from all of the timelines and is 2 games long. For each game I cover, I'll be sure to tell you where that game is in these timelines. But first, we start in 1987 with the aptly named The Legend of Zelda.
Did you see the latest Nintendo newsletter?
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System. It's The Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers, too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link. Yeah, get Zelda.
Awesome.
Intense.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Your parents help you hook it up.
While The Legend of Zelda was the first game of the franchise, in the chronological timeline, it is considered the 8th game of the Fallen Hero timeline, coming in after Echoes of Wisdom, but before the next game of the series, The Adventure of Link. In 1987, Nintendo was not known like it is today. The general public knew video games existed, but the majority of people had never played a video game. When The Legend of Zelda was released, it was mind-blowing, an open-world game in 1987, and it had the ability to save your progress. The cartridge itself was gold in color. The music was ahead of the time, and it was so different compared to anything we had seen before. We meet Link, Princess Zelda, and Ganon, as Link must collect the 8 fragments of the Triforce of Wisdom. It is only then that Link can defeat Ganon, save Princess Zelda, and bring peace to Hyrule. It's probably the most basic of Zelda games, but that's all it needed to be. The graphics may look medieval by 2025 standards, but for the late 80s, this was incredible. It was such a good game, and it spawned the series we're here discussing right now. It's trivia time. The entire episode is about Zelda, but did you know there are 2 Legend of Zelda games in which Zelda does not appear? What 2 games are those? I'll answer this later in the episode. For now, let's move on to 1988's The Adventure of Link.
The Legend of Zelda continues. Defeat your enemies, save the kingdom. Some will help you, others will betray you.
I can restore life. I can get magic.
I cannot help you.
Zelda!
Use your sword.
Find the crystals.
Rescue the princess.
Zelda! Zelda!
Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, only from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
The Adventure of Link was everything the original was, and then some. The second game of the series, as well as the 9th and final game in the Fallen Hero timeline. The Adventure of Link takes place after the original Legend of Zelda, but before Breath of the Wild. Zelda 2 introduced us to side-scrolling, swordplay, and magical spells became of utmost importance. Link could level up by defeating enemies, leaving the life-based style that the original had introduced. The graphics took a large step forward and gave off the vibes of many other games of that era. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link is considered one of the more difficult games in the series. I admit, I have not been able to defeat Zelda 2. Yet. In Zelda 2, a 16-year-old Link notices a mark on his hand that resembles Hyrule. With Impa's help, Link finds Zelda in a deep slumber, unable to wake up. Link must restore 6 crystals to their rightful place, and once Link is able to obtain all 3 pieces of the Triforce, Link uses the wish to wake up Zelda. We now leave the NES and head to the Super Nintendo for A Link to the Past.
Introducing the epic challenge that only the Super Nintendo Entertainment System could make possible. Across endless land and water, you search. Deep into a parallel world where light becomes dark, you search. And just when you think your search has ended, you find it's just begun. The new Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
The Master Sword has arrived. Yes, this is when we finally see what many would call the most famous sword in all of gaming. This was also the first Legend of Zelda game that I ever played. The third game of the franchise, A Link to the Past is considered the first game of the Fallen Hero timeline, taking place after Ocarina of Time and before Link's Awakening. A Link to the Past returned to the top-down perspective from the original Legend of Zelda. Link was now able to move diagonally for the first time, and new attacks were introduced, such as the charge attack and the charge-up spin attack. A Link to the Past introduced gamers to 2 separate worlds, light and dark. Princess Zelda speaks to Link telepathically as Link ventures between both worlds, obtaining pendants in an effort to defeat Aghanim. However, when Aghanim is defeated, Ganon reveals himself as the real final boss for A Link to the Past. Link is aided along the way with the first ever appearance of not only the Master Sword, but also the Fire Shield and the Magic Boomerang. A Link to the Past also introduced us to Pieces of Heart. This was the only Legend of Zelda on the Super Nintendo, and it was an overwhelming success, which led us to Link's Awakening.
Down with Zelda from the very start. I got the heart, it's smart to play the part. Down with Zelda. Creeping through with an overhead view, cause a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. So I stay on track, collect the facts, never cut the slack, and I always watch my back for Jack. Down with Zelda, yeah. Soon I stand, I'm the man with the plan, cause the power's in my head and the power's in my hand. Down with Zelda.
Link's Awakening was the handheld debut for Legend of Zelda. The first of 8 games on a handheld, Link's Awakening was the 4th game of the series and is the 2nd game in the Fallen Hero timeline. Coming before Oracle of Seasons, it followed A Link to the Past, both in the series and chronologically. The evolution continued as the game was the first adventure outside of Hyrule, taking place on the island of Koholint. The story of Link's Awakening was somewhat strange though, as Link had to get through 8 dungeons and battle a boss that takes the form of Ganon. But when Link is successful and plays the Ballad of the Windfish, everything disappears and Link wakes up on a piece of driftwood on the ocean as if nothing had ever happened. It was all a dream, or so we're led to believe. After Link's Awakening, next up was the most important game in the series, and it came on the Nintendo 64. It was time for Ocarina of Time. The most important game of the franchise, and many would say the best Legend of Zelda as far as gameplay. Ocarina of Time is the time-splitter game of the series. While it takes place after Four Swords Adventures, the ending of Ocarina of Time splits the timeline into three, so it's the precursor for Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, and A Link to the Past. Ocarina of Time continued the evolution, as being the first game played in 3D. It also introduced Z-targeting, which allowed gamers to lock on to enemies and became a staple in the gaming world. That's right, gamers. It was the Legend of Zelda who created the ability to target an enemy with a button. You wouldn't be playing Call of Duty the way you are right now if Legend of Zelda hadn't created Z-targeting. The buttons were context sensitive, and the soundtrack to this game, it was phenomenal. Ganondorf is back and looking for the Triforce yet again. Link is tasked with obtaining the 3 spiritual stones in order to enter a sacred realm and claim the Triforce first. But doing so only results in Ganondorf obtaining the Triforce. Time travel is involved in the story, as Link was seen as both a child and an adult, and explains why the timeline splits the way it does. Link must then find 7 sages to defeat Ganon, all the while the story whips back and forth, leaving gamers on the edge of their seat. The ending is epic, and it's one you really should experience for yourself, so I'm not going to spoil it here, gamers. It led Nintendo to releasing the next game in the lineup, Majora's Mask.
One home. Rated E for everyone.
Following Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask had huge shoes to fill, and Nintendo delivered. As the 6th game of the series and first game in the child timeline, Majora's Mask follows Ocarina of Time in both the series and chronologically. Majora's Mask is followed in the timeline by Twilight Princess. Majora's Mask leaves Hyrule and takes place in the world of Termina. This world may end due to a falling moon. Majora's Mask had a dark overtone, focusing on themes such as time, loss, and the choices that Link makes. Majora's Mask is built around a 3-day time cycle, and gamers would have to reset the cycle by singing a song. Link also had the ability to wear masks, which would change Link's race to Deku, or Goron, or Zora. The main villain of Majora's Mask is thought to be Skull Kid, but it was Majora's Mask itself calling the shots, and Link's path to victory requires the help of 4 sleeping giants. Let's answer that trivia question. Zelda has appeared in all but 2 Legend of Zelda games. Those 2 games are the Game Boy's Link Awakening and the 3DS's Triforce Heroes. There are a few other games where she only appears once or with a code, but for these 2 games, she never appears.
Zelda returns to Game Boy Color in an adventure too big for just one game. Rated E for everyone, each game sold separately.
Get into it.
The Oracle of Seasons and the Oracle of Ages were both on Game Boy Color. The games were released with the intention that gamers would play them back to back. They are the 7th and 8th installments in the series, taking place as the 3rd and 4th games in the Fallen Hero timeline. They come after Link's Awakening, but before A Link Between Worlds. Starting with Oracle of Seasons, Seasons' main focus was on exploration, with more of an open world. Its main tasks included combat and puzzle solving. Oracle of Ages had more of a labyrinthian world, with time manipulation and more puzzle solving. Gamers could even unlock extra content and a different ending if they completed one game and used the password on the second. Oracle of Seasons tasked Link with capturing 8 essences in as many dungeons. Link would need these essences in order to access the castle and defeat Onox. Oracle of Ages sees Link looking to obtain 8 essences of time. Link uses these essences to defeat Varan. In both games, the Maku tree is integral as it helps Link get to each game's final boss. These 2 are unique to the entire series. These are the only 2 games that are actually linked together within the game. For that reason alone, you should give the Oracles a try. Let's head to the Game Boy Advance now, with 4 swords.
Help me!
Things in the light are not the same in the dark.
The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past for Game Boy Advance, and now 4 can play.
Do I smell fear?
Rated E for everyone.
4 Swords was the introduction of multiplayer games in the series. The 9th game of the series and the first on Game Boy Advance. 4 Swords is considered the 3rd game in the Origin timeline, coming after the Minish Cap and before Ocarina of Time. 4 Swords was obviously a 4-player game where gamers controlled one of 4 color-coded links. 4 Swords' original release was quite unique as well, coming as an additional game with the Game Boy Advance version of A Link to the Past. The dungeons were randomly generated each time you played, forcing gamers to accomplish new setups and challenges. The story was a fun one too. Link had to save Princess Zelda from Vati, but in order to do so, Link must first find the 3 great fairies. But it isn't until Link pulls the 4 sword out from its pedestal that 3 copies of Link are created. Don't worry, single-player fans. You can control all 4 Links if you want to play the game on your own. This multiplayer adventure led us into the first GameCube edition in the evolution. Wind Waker.
In the land of Hyrule, the wind echoes a legend. A legend that tells of a boy who became a man. He traveled to the ends of the earth challenging the forces of nature, testing the limits of his will, all to fulfill his destiny, which is, above all else, to save me.
The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Rated E for everyone.
The Wind Waker was a big change for the series. For the first time, Link came in cartoon form. And for the first time, the vast majority of exploration was done on water. The Wind Waker was the 10th game in the series, and chronologically, Wind Waker is the first game in the adult timeline. It precedes Phantom Hourglass in the adult timeline. The story follows Link looking for his sister and turns into a struggle against Ganondorf to, tell me if you've heard this before, save the world. There was so much in Wind Waker that stands out from other Legend of Zeldas. How can we forget about the conductor's baton that Link could use? The sounds that would ring out. Incredible. The grappling hook was incredibly important in Wind Waker 2, being used to find treasure chests, getting across gaps, or stealing items. And don't forget about the cannon on that boat. Definitely one of my favorite games in the series. It's often a target for easy jokes, but if you play it, you're going to love it. The evolution continued a year later with another GameCube release, Four Swords Adventure.
Woe be me. For with this sword I have unleashed an evil wind that has taken our beloved princess. Our journey is fraught with danger, but together we four might overcome the mage's dark magic. Only then will all the maidens be released, and our princess, once again, be rescued.
Who are you?
The Legend of Zelda Four Swords Adventures, only for Nintendo GameCube. Rated E.
Four Swords Adventures brought us right back into multiplayer gameplay. Four Swords was the 11th game of the series, and is third in the child timeline, coming after Twilight Princess and before Breath of the Wild. While this was the second multiplayer game, Four Swords Adventure is the only multiplayer game on console. The game was structured into being level-based, as there were distinct levels instead of the typical connected world. Gamers could even control all four links if they wanted to complete the game on their own. Four Swords Adventure centers around Link releasing Vati by mistake when Link decides to use the Four Sword. But Vati was merely just a stepping stone in Four Swords Adventure, as a new Ganon is revealed to be controlling everything. Link would need to defeat Shadow Link, Vati, and Ganon in order to vanquish the evil and bring peace to Hyrule once again. Ooh, it's halftime, folks. We've covered 11 of the 21 Legend of Zeldas. This would be the best time to bring in Statboy. Statboy, let's talk about which Zelda games sold the most copies. Give me the top 5 sellers in the series, and tell me how many total copies of all games have been sold. Hi, Bram! Thanks for having me back again! There are 5 games in the Legend of Zelda series that have sold at least 10 million copies, getting themselves into that top 5. In the 5th spot was Twilight Princess on the GameCube, which sold over a little 10 million copies. In the 4th spot, with a little more than 12.5 million copies, was Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. Up next, with over 14 million copies, is the Time Splitter, Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. But it shouldn't be a surprise who the top 2 games are. At 21.5 million copies is Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch 2. But it's Breath of the Wild with over 34 million games sold in the top spot. Overall, all 21 games have sold over 157 million copies combined. Wowee! With 21 games in the evolution, that's an average of just under 7.5 million copies per game in the series. That's a ridiculous number. Let's wrap up halftime and head into the second half of this evolution with the Minish Cap.
Mystic, Microscopic, Conqueror. You can use the power of the Minish Cap to get small, unlock clues, and save Hyrule. The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap, only for Game Boy Advance. Rated E for everyone.
The Minish Cap came flying in on the Game Boy Advance, the 12th game of the series and the second game of the Origin timeline. The Minish Cap takes place after Skyward Sword and before Four Swords. The evolution changed this time by allowing Link to shrink down to Minish size. Our hero meets a magical hat named Ezla and must retrieve the 4 elements to activate a reforged sword and eventually go up against Vati in order to restore Zelda to normal. The Minish Cap has a lot of importance in the Legend of Zelda series, as it introduces the story behind Vati while also being the origin story for the Four Sword. It's time for another trivia question. The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda. Have those 4 words appeared in the title of every game in the series? We'll answer this question later in the episode. Let's move on to the final GameCube installment of The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. Got an itchy ear. Twilight Princess was returned to a darker atmosphere. The 13th game of the series, Twilight Princess is considered the second game of the Child timeline, coming after the similarly dark Majora's Mask and before Four Swords Adventure. Twilight Princess brought us one of the most creative changes in the evolution of The Legend of Zelda, as Link could transform into a wolf. Wolf form was a mandatory part of both puzzle solving and the story. Twilight Princess had a more mature tone, with all the inhabitants of Hyrule becoming invisible spirits. The Master Sword once again takes center stage, as Link must wield it in order to remove the curse of Zant that has Link in permanent wolf form. Ganondorf is the villain, and he must be defeated if Link is going to remove the curse currently set on Midna. But in typical Legend of Zelda fashion, Link must defeat Ganon twice. Twilight Princess is a thrilling game from start to finish and led us into the first Nintendo DS version, Phantom Hourglass.
You're supposed to just go like this.
Yeah.
Oh, coin. Okay. Okay, but wait, what's in there? Collect my jewels. I'll be taking that and that. Yeah. No. Whoa! Oh my God! I took 4 out at once. Amazing. Nice. The Legend of Zelda: Phantom Hourglass. Only for Nintendo DS. Rated E for everyone.
Phantom Hourglass was the first Legend of Zelda to appear on the DS. The 14th game of the series, Phantom Hourglass takes place as the second game of the adult timeline, after Wind Waker, but before Spirit Tracks. This was the first game in the evolution to utilize a touchscreen and a microphone, making The Legend of Zelda even more interactive. Since this was the sequel to Wind Waker, Link is once again joined by his sister Tetra. This was another installment in which the end result is played off as a dream. First, Link has to free 3 spirits before he can battle the main antagonist, Bellum. Link winds up having to defeat Bellum twice before Link and Tetra awake on a ship after a 10-minute dream. The Phantom Hourglass is widely considered a masterpiece for the DS. You really have to give it a try if you can. Next up is another DS game, Spirit Tracks.
Next stop, Hyrule. Link and Zelda team up in an all-new epic adventure, The Legend of Zelda: Spirit Tracks.
Spirit Tracks continued The Legend of Zelda's run on the DS, the 15th game of the series and third game of the adult timeline. Spirit Tracks takes place after Phantom Hourglass and before Breath of the Wild. The evolution saw Spirit Tracks continue Phantom Hourglass's usage of the touchscreen, but introduced gamers to train mechanics. Princess Zelda is more involved in both puzzles and the narrative of the game. Spirit Tracks also introduced a multiplayer mode called Spirit Train that allowed gamers to assist each other in completing certain sections. The story picks up this time a century after Phantom Hourglass. Link is a train engineer with Zelda at his side. The two travel the Spirit Tracks in an attempt to keep the Demon King Malladus asleep. Spirit Tracks ended with 3 possible endings for Link. One that saw Link become a royal guard, another where Link stays as a train engineer, and a third where Link is seen following an unknown path. It all led to the next installment, this time on the Wii, Skyward Sword.
Well done, Zelda, but you have a lot to learn before you become a master.
First off, yes, that was Robin Williams, and yes, his daughter is not only named Zelda, but she was named after Princess Zelda. They were playing Skyward Sword, the 16th game of the evolution. Skyward Sword is considered the very first game in the entire Legend of Zelda franchise. It's followed by the Minish Cap, but Skyward Sword wound up showing us all kinds of origins. The only Legend of Zelda to be released on the Wii, gamers were introduced to motion controls for items like swords and bows. Skyward was a city in the city that allowed gamers to lower into one of 3 worlds that could be explored and had dungeons to defeat. We finally learned how the Triforce came to be, and Link would learn about and yield the Master Sword for the first time. All in the pursuit of saving Zelda, of course. Not once, but twice. And upon completion of the game, we see Link and Zelda set out to create the Kingdom of Hyrule. What a great game it was to start off the series. We now head back to handhelds with A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS.
To become a legend, you must be willing to risk everything. There is no challenge you can't overcome. No danger you can't escape, and no dungeon you can't solve. You can use Link's new powers in an all-new adventure to conquer Hyrule's ancient dungeons. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Only available on Nintendo 3DS and 2DS. Rated E for everyone.
A Link Between Worlds was the first Zelda game on the 3DS. It's the 17th game of the series and 5th in the Fallen Hero timeline. It takes place after Oracle of Ages, but before Triforce Heroes. But even more important is that A Link Between Worlds is considered a direct sequel from the Super Nintendo's A Link to the Past. A Link Between Worlds introduced a completely new 3D art style and for the first time allowed players to decide which order they completed dungeons in. Link heads off on yet another adventure as he attempts to rescue the 7 sages and defeat Yuga. Link could enter 2D worlds, which would allow Link to travel between the 2 worlds, Hyrule and Lorule. And Link has to do this if he's going to stop Yuga from resurrecting the Demon King. Of course, it's canon. Let's answer the second trivia question. Has The Legend of Zelda appeared in the title of every game in the series? The answer is no. But it was almost in every game. The only one it's missing from is the second game of the series, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Let's move on to the next installment of the series. We're sticking to the 3DS with Triforce Heroes. Triforce Heroes was quite the change in the evolution. As the 18th game of the franchise, Triforce Heroes is the 6th game in the Fallen Hero timeline, coming after A Link Between Worlds and before Echoes of Wisdom. Triforce Heroes was the 3rd multiplayer game in the series, but this was the first multiplayer game to use the internet instead of link cables. The players shared a health bar and had to work together on puzzles. You could stack on top of one another, craft costumes to get different abilities, but Link also had no shield and had to dodge attacks more often. The story was vastly different as well. Link is set out on a quest to save Princess Styla of Hytopia from a magical curse that has stripped the princess of her love for fashion. That's right, fashion. As a result, the kingdom has become dull and drab. The evil Drablands Witch is possibly the least daunting antagonist in the entire series, but the gameplay makes up for it in my opinion. This was the final game of the series before Nintendo gave us the 2 games that make up the finale timeline, and it began on the Switch with Breath of the Wild.
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Nintendo Switch. Game rated everyone 10 and up.
Time for one of the most cinematic masterpieces in all of gaming. Breath of the Wild was the 19th Legend of Zelda game and the first game in the finale timeline. It is seen as the culmination of the end of all 3 previous timelines: Child, Adult, and Fallen Hero. Breath of the Wild brought us an open-world, immersive game that was unlike any of its predecessors. Breath of the Wild allowed gamers to play this edition in any order they wished, and relied heavily on physics-based mechanics. Breath of the Wild also introduced gamers to voice acting. Stamina came into play as gamers had to manage the way Link climbed, swam, ran, and glided. Link is given a Sheikah Slate, which allows Link to perform many new skills, or even take a picture for the Hyrule Compendium. In this Legend of Zelda, Link is tasked with once again saving Princess Zelda while attempting to defeat Calamity Ganon. And it directly leads right into the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom.
There, that's where I gotta go.
How do I get over there?
There, the fan, at it!
It flies!
Oh, you just messed with the wrong...
Goblin!
Go up there!
Check this out.
The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Rated everyone 10 and up, only on Nintendo Switch.
Tears of the Kingdom was a direct sequel to the previous Breath of the Wild and is considered the very last game in the series. Tears of the Kingdom is the game in which all future Legend of Zeldas will build off of. The evolution continued, introducing new mechanics like weapon and vehicle crafting. With new areas to explore in the sky and underground, gamers had more options to explore in Tears of the Kingdom than they had in any other Legend of Zelda ever created. After Link and Princess Zelda discover a new substance called gloom, Link must once again build towards a battle against Ganondorf. Zelda takes the form of a dragon. The Master Sword gets shattered, and Link even loses his arm. It's a wild story from the start to the finish, and is the core reason why Tears of the Kingdom has become one of the most celebrated video games in history. A beautiful story with an exceptional ending has given Nintendo a gigantic hill to climb for any sequel. Maybe that's why the next game went back to a past timeline, with Echoes of Wisdom.
It's Link, our brave hero who... Oh, that means... It's Zelda's time to shine! To rescue the people of Hyrule, Zelda's embarking on an adventure all her own, and using her wisdom to save her kingdom. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, available now only on Nintendo Switch.
And now we're up to the most recent release. Echoes of Wisdom is the 21st game of the series, and the 7th game in the Fallen Hero timeline. It takes place after Triforce Heroes, but before the original Legend of Zelda on the NES. The evolution took a wonderful turn here, as Princess Zelda became the titular character for the first time. In Echoes of Wisdom, Zelda is taken to a fictional world where she must save Link. With a magical artifact called the Tri-Rod, Zelda goes up against Ganon, but it's revealed that Ganon is an imposter, and the real enemy is a primordial evil named Null. And that, everyone, was the evolution of the Legend of Zelda. 21 games over 37 years, 7 consoles, 5 handhelds, Princess Zelda, Link, Ganon. We've covered every basis along the way. What's your favorite Legend of Zelda game? Let me know in the comments. I'll be back with episode 6 as we go back in time and visit the release of the Sega Master System. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, GG's everyone.